Excelente! Hello everybody! How are we doing today? How's everyone? Huh? How are you? Jennifer! Hi! So good to have you here today. In English this time. I'm so excited about today. It's the first day. And I'll tell you what. That fella over there who's just waiting in the wings, that Barnaby fella, Dr. King, as he likes to call himself for some reason, although, you know, he's not actually a doctor. You know, he's just an academic. You know, he couldn't actually save you if you had, you know, coronavirus, for example. I mean, no way. So he likes to call himself doctor. It makes him feel good. So I'll be introducing him in just a minute, and he is very, very excited. Hi everybody, Juan Pablo. Hi, how you doing today? Fabulous to have you here. Guys, let me know where you're from. Where are you tuning in from today? I would love to know. Where are you? Write it in the comments. Write how you're doing today. Tell me. Share with me. Give me a little thumbs up, a little like, a little boop 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 boop, a little heart. Let me know that you're enjoying what you're seeing and that you're not totally bored at any rate. Yeah, so as I say, my colleague and friend, Dr. King, will be arriving very soon. Ah, you're in Peru, Juan. Very good. Excellent. Anybody else out there? Where are you from? Let me know. While we're waiting for some more people to join in. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my world. There's something new, I'm gonna give it to you. Yes, I'm gonna give it a whirl. Give me your likes and your little hearts too. And if you really like what you see, you might share it with your boo. What on earth is a boo? Wish somebody would tell me. If you know, write it down below, and I'll read it here on the telly. Excellent. Well, folks, I'm very excited because this is the first day of this marvelous invention of Dr. King called Clown Hacks. Apparently, he's going to tell you about how to have a better life, how to improve yourself, how to be happier, and to be less miserable. And it all has to do with clowns. Search me. I have no idea what it's all about, but he promises that he's going to enlighten you. If you'll just stick around for a few moments longer, he'll be here to explain everything. Okay, so I think it's time, folks, to introduce to you the fantastic, the doctor who's not really a doctor, the man who thinks he knows everything, Dr. King. Here he is. Yes, hello everybody. Hi, good to see you. Yes, sorry about that. Little introduction from my friend over there. You know, he does like to get in on the limelight and steal the show somewhat with his strange songs and strange musings. So, anyway, I hope everyone's really well out there. I can see there's lots of people out there watching and commenting. Hi, Hillary. Hi, Mum. Mum's watching from South Wales. Great to see you, Mum. Gonna see you very soon. Well, in 2 weeks anyway. Because, for those of you who didn't know, we are actually in the middle of a bit of a transition at the moment. We've been living in Colombia for the last 10 months, and we are literally on the cusp of flying back home to England. So this week, I'm going to be doing these 5 lives, one every day, about clown hacks. And before I start off with the first one, I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of context and explain why I decided to come on and do this, because it's been a bit of a journey for me. And I'm quite nervous about doing this, because although I know you might think, well, he's got tons of experience performing, he's performed in front of hundreds of people, he's taught for years and years, why would he be nervous about coming on to a Facebook Live and doing, hey Debbie, how's it going? About doing a little Facebook Live. Well, and the thing is, I think it's somehow because it feels like to me that I've never fully come out, if you like, on Facebook as a clown in some ways, particularly not to my friends and my family and the people at home back in England. And, you know, most of my work has been in South America, and I've spent a lot of time in front of people in Colombia and South America, and somehow, you know, when you're away from home, you feel like you're somebody else, and you can kind of do whatever you want and say whatever you want, and it doesn't feel scary. But then when you come back home and you're speaking to your own people, there's something that's more challenging about that. It feels like kind of revealing a part of yourself. So I feel a little bit vulnerable, a little bit nervous about doing this. And it took, you know, quite a bit of energy and effort to say, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this series of lives for everyone. Because at the end of the day, I've been doing clowning for 20 years. I've been teaching it for about 15 of those 20 years. And I feel like my hesitancy and my nervousness is not founded. It's not well founded, because I have a lot of experience coming up to this point and a lot of things that people could actually benefit from. And I sort of realized that when I started writing these posts recently, and found that I was getting this kind of amazing response. Speaking of response, I want this to be really interactive and really helpful for people. So please do write in the comments any reactions, any thoughts, what resonates with you, you know, what feels true from what I say, what feels relevant to you. And ask me questions as well. And at the end of the series of lives on Friday, I'm going to actually do a proper Q&A where I'll just take people's questions. Okay, so if you have burning questions or we don't have time to answer them during each of the lives, just save them up to the end. There will also, I should add, be some homework. I'm going to give people little tasks to do between each of these lives. All right, so it's going to turn into a little bit of a Facebook challenge for those of you who want to participate in that. And I'm going to be going on every day. It's just for about 20 minutes each day, so it's not a lot to keep up with. So do let me know again where you are, where are you tuning in from. Say hi, give me a thumbs up, let me know you're enjoying the content, you're finding it helpful. Share it even with some friends and see if we can boost the figures and get this work out to even more people. Because really, for me, that's what it is. It is work and it is fun at the same time. And you're going to see what I mean by that very soon, I hope. So, clown hacks. What is it's a bit of a weird title, but what is the purpose of this? Well, over the 20 years that I've been doing clowning, I've found a number of ways in which it's become implicitly part of my life. That is, my clown training has kind of infiltrated and become part of my everyday life. Not as a clown, not performing per se, although I do that as well, or not even teaching other people how to clown, but just in day-to-day everyday life. Clowning, some of the principles and concepts that I've learned as a clown and in clown training I've been able to apply them to everyday life in ways that I've found really helpful. So what I thought I would do is share those in these episodes throughout the week, one each day. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be traveling. So you're going to see me in a different place each day. I don't think I can actually do it from an aeroplane, but I might be in an airport one day, or I'm traveling, and by the end of the week, I'm going to be in England. So you're going to kind of follow me through this whole journey. All right, so here we go with episode number 1 of Clown Hacks. And what I'd like to talk about today, for about 10 minutes, the first clown hack is this. It's about knowing who you are, right? Who are you? Do you know who you really are? Have you accepted who you really are? Are you trying to be something different from who you really are? Now, this is actually a fundamental concept in clowning. It's one of the first things you do in the clown training that I did and that I teach, is starting to understand who your clown actually is, right? Because every clown, like every person, is a unique creation. It's a unique thing that's given to you and that then you build on. And learning that can be really painful sometimes for people because they don't want to face their true selves. And in particular with clowning, it's about their flaws, right? It's about the worst side of them, their kind of dark underbelly that nobody wants to expose and show to the world. So in the inimitable words of my own teacher, Sue Morrison, you have to stand in your own shit. And that's literally what she says. And I quite like this because, you know, it's your shit, own it. And also notice that it's your shit, that you created that whilst you're doing it. You're not blaming it on anybody else. You're not saying, that's not my shit, that's somebody else's shit. You're saying, no, that's mine, actually. But also notice this, that it looks strangely similar to everybody else's shit. So there's a weird thing going on there, where our flaws, right, which is kind of what I mean by our shit, our flaws, our imperfections are unique. They are individual to us. And I think that's what makes us interesting. That's what makes one person different from another. And it's what I'm interested in when I get to know somebody. It's not just, what are they fantastic at? It's like, what are their vulnerabilities? What are their weaknesses? And when people actually reveal that to you, isn't that what makes you feel close to people, connected to people? When they reveal those areas of I don't know, doubt or vulnerability or weakness. That for me is the real sign of love and connection between people, when the people are prepared to do that. And it's what makes people interesting to me, their flaws. Certainly for a clown, that's really, really important because we need to see the flaws. Clowning is all about flaws, but I think this transfers to real life, right? Notice that it's your shit that you're standing in. And also notice that it looks a lot like other people's shit. And by that, what I mean is that your flaws, although they are unique to you, are actually also universal. In other words, lots and lots of other people around the planet have exactly the same flaws. And you think you're the only one, right? Which is the cause of a lot of suffering for us. You think, everyone else is doing so great. Look at the fantastic things they're doing. I feel that all the time, I have to say, and I think it's normal. You look around and you see how people present themselves in the world, particularly on Facebook, and the interesting things they're doing, and you think, why can't I be more like that? But actually, they're thinking the same thing, right? So the flaws that we have are weirdly individual and universal at the same time. I want to give you an example of this. I've always had this desire, this deep desire to be better, to literally be better. And I see it, I think this is a flaw, this is a problem for me, right? Because I'm constantly kind of dissatisfied a little bit dissatisfied with results and with what I'm doing in life. I feel like it's not ever quite enough. I want to be more. Now, this is something that I explore in my clowning a lot. But I just want to unpick that a moment, because it would be very easy for me to say, I wonder why I feel that way. Oh, I know, it's because, I went to this very academic school and I was pushed really hard and I was given lots of criticism all the time. And I was given relatively little encouragement and positive feedback. It was always, you could do better, do better, get a better mark, get a better grade. And that's true. But it would be very easy for me to push that flaw onto those people, that school, my past, and say that's what caused it, instead of owning it. And the difference there is that by owning it and seeing it as a choice in the present, I have control, right? Whereas if I just simply see it as something that was done to me as a child, it's done, I have no control over that. It's disempowering for me. So I can see my flaws either as a product of society, something that's done to me, or I can see them as a deeply personal flaw, something that's personal to me, and something that I can both learn from and enjoy at times. I can laugh at it, I can share it with other people as a way to connect with other people, and I can also override it at times. I can supersede it and go beyond that flaw. And clowns have to juggle that all the time in clowning, that juggling the personal and the universal. Because what makes a clown successful is exactly that blend of things. You think about any famous clown or clown type actor or character. I mean, just take Charlie Chaplin, for example. What he did was both unique and absolutely imitative of other clowns and performers at that time. He was in a tradition of comic performers where actually he looked very similar to lots of other comic performers at that time and for the previous 50 or so years. So he was drawing on that, and he wasn't at all original in that sense, but he did something to make his character completely different and new and present it to people in a way that made him massively successful and popular. So it was just that juggling of the universal and the individual. And that is what we have to do, I think, in life with this notion of our flaws, is to see them as both ours, completely ours, that we have control over, and also be able to let go of them and say, you know what? Everyone has this flaw. I'm not special. I'm not different. I'm not better. I'm not worse. And that is a really freeing thing. So that's the first part of knowing who you are. And I think it's the most important part. The second thing I just want to touch on with this, in terms of knowing yourself, knowing who you are, is the ability to listen to your inner guide, right? And this might sound a little bit strange at first, but we all have that voice. Now, if you have a voice all the time and it's really easy to hear, then you might want to go and see a psychologist about that. Because I'm not talking about that kind of voice. In fact, the kind of voice I'm talking about is actually quite difficult to hear, and we spend a lot of the time ignoring it. I'm talking about that deeper consciousness, that sort of internal soul or spirit or whatever you want to call it, the guide that we have inside us, that actually tells us what to do in 99% of cases when we have to decide something, if we will just let it. So the first thing is to notice that you have impulses and instincts to do things, and create space for those to be heard. That doesn't mean that you have to act on them all the time, but hearing them is really, really important. And what I found amazingly helpful is not just the clowning, but putting in place some practical strategies that help me tune into that voice. And I mean, for me, meditating is a good example of that. And for some people, it's prayer. For me, I started meditating seriously about 2 years ago through Transcendental Meditation, TM. And I meditate twice every day for 20 minutes. And that is a space which kind of opens up that inner voice. And I can notice what it's saying to me. Now, then I can feel free to take its advice or not take its advice. But very often when I feel I really, really reach down and give space for that voice to speak, it knows what to do or what I should do if I have a big decision to make. And in fact, I don't think it's any coincidence that about 6 months after I started meditating, I left my job at Edge Hill, where I was working in the UK, and made this big life change, right? I left academia, I left a full-time, well-paid job to go abroad with my family and spend this year in Colombia kind of reinventing ourselves and figuring out what we want to do next and building this amazing business that I have with Molly, Move to Nourish, which we're doing now. And it's been one of the best decisions of my life. You know, we're having an amazing time and we're truly living our dream at the same time as learning and discovering what our dream really is. And I think that it was that meditating, starting that really opened up the space for me to be able to take that big decision. Again, this is something that clowns have to do all the time. And the reason for this is that when you're clowning, when you're in that state of clown, you're in an altered state, right? There's adrenaline, there's different kinds of energy flowing through you. You're often in front of lots of people, and the effect of that is sometimes very powerful. You know, the effect of people's eyes looking at you and all the judgments and the emotions that come from that. And in order to keep your feet firmly on the ground and to be able to take good, sensible decisions, and also remember your cues and remember if you've actually got a script or a structure to get through, you've got to remember that. So you've got to actually be able to tune into that inner voice that's there, keeping you grounded, guiding you through. You've got to be able to have faith and trust in that voice. So again, clowning has given me something very valuable there, but I think that it's absolutely applicable and it's a skill that we can practice in our everyday lives, whether we are clowns or performers or not, any of that. As I say, opening up space to be able to hear that voice, finding practical ways to tune into it. So that's kind of the second thing. So we've got stand in your own shit, we've got listen to your inner guide, and then the third piece of this that I'd like to speak to is, in a way, it's the product of the first two. Okay, once you've acknowledged your flaws and your shit, and you've accepted it as your own, and you've learned to tune in to that inner voice, the third thing for me about knowing who you are is the ability to speak your truth. And by that, I don't necessarily mean literally speak in words, although it might be. Okay, maybe it's about saying things to people that you believe or feel to be true, and that's certainly been the case for me at times. But it's finding different ways to express your truth, right? And that is the fundamental job of the clown, to speak truth in any given moment, either the truth of human experience to you as an audience, or perhaps speaking truth to power, speaking truth to the authorities, the leaders. And this is, again, something that we can apply to everyday life. So again, it's about noticing what comes up in real situations. When do you have the impulse to speak the truth, even if it might be inappropriate in a particular moment? And I have to say that I have this impulse an awful lot. And then I also have to tune into my inner guide to tell me, is this a good idea to do this or not? And sometimes the impulse is so overriding that I don't listen to that voice and I go ahead and do it anyway. And I think that the consequences of that can be very powerful. I'll tell you a story about myself. One time when I was working at Edge Hill, I felt very aggrieved, upset about things that were happening in my department at the time. And I decided that I had to do something. And my way of doing something was, perhaps predictably, as a clown. So what I did was I went to a staff meeting, big staff meeting with about 50 people, in my clown, with my costume on and my nose and everything. And I went in and I basically kind of made an idiot of myself and made fun of the head of department somewhat. And it was an interesting experience because it was deeply uncomfortable on one level, difficult for people. But years later, people remind me of that and remember that as such an important moment for them, like an opportunity to release the frustration that everybody was feeling, that just the relief of it, to share it, to be able to laugh about it. Now, I got into some trouble for doing that, and I've always kind of got into trouble in my life for similar things, you know, for sort of speaking out. And I never want to stop, because surely getting into trouble is a good sign if you're doing things like that. It's a good sign that you're not just sitting back, that you're actively participating in life. You're saying what you feel, and you're making a contribution to the world, because those things make a difference for other people. And in some ways, this for me, coming out and doing these lives, the posts I've written over the last few days, have also been for me an opportunity to speak my truth, right? To be unafraid, and to stop being self-critical and perfectionist about things, and just trust that I have the knowledge, that I have access to information that other people are interested in and actually actively want. And here's a really good question. What's the worst that can happen if you do that? You might feel silly. I got into trouble somewhat when I did this thing at Edge Hill, but it wasn't like I was fired. The head of department kind of made some comments, a few people made some comments that they thought it was inappropriate. It created waves. But I'd ask again, what is the worst that can happen? And most times, 9 times out of 10, the worst that can happen is really not that bad. And actually, the consequences of speaking out and speaking the truth are more positive than they are negative. Having said that, I think it's also about the timing of it. If we think right now about the Black Lives Matter movement, what's happening feels like it's at the right time. And it's not to say it wouldn't have been valuable a few years ago, but there's something about the timing of it right now with everything that's going on in the world that feels congruent, it feels powerful, and it feels like it's going to produce change, right? So historically, we can see this as well, that historically when people protest and make a big fuss and a big scene about something, it can often be met with a brick wall or create an opposite response. And when there's a kind of a synchronicity, when there's a congruence, when things happen at the right time, those things kind of catch fire, right? They set a light to something, they start a ball rolling, and real change happens. And I think the same is true for our own lives. And again, I want to relate this back to clowning, because for a performer, and especially think for a clown, success is really about catching that wave. It's knowing when to say that slightly uncomfortable, challenging thing to an audience at the right moment, when they're with you and when they're going to go with you, right? How and when you can sell a particular joke. And that's something you can only learn with time. And also through a lot of failure, right? You try, you fail, people don't laugh, maybe you offend, maybe you upset. At the end of the day, the worst thing is surely not the consequence of the failure. Surely the worst thing is not trying in the first place. Not even giving yourself the opportunity to speak out, to speak your truth, to really be you. So those are the kind of 3 big things that I wanted to put out there today as my first clown hack, right? And it does come directly, as I said, from clown training. It's knowing who you are. Nobody is going to pay you much attention on stage if you don't know who you are. You have to come from this really strong place of knowing who you are. Whether you think of that as a character or a clown or just expressing your inner child, people call it different things. And in life, it's the same. Once you know who you are and you can stand in your own shit, you can listen to that inner voice and you can speak your truth, you have everything you need, to lead a powerful and happy life. And so that's one way in which clowning has been really, really helpful for me. So we've just come up to the half an hour mark. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Just if you're still there with me, write a little comment right now. Tell me, for example, which of those three resonates most with you? What do you think you need to work on most? Is it the first thing about standing in your shit? Is it listening to your inner guide? Is it that bravery of risk-taking and speaking your truth? Have a quick type into your comment box and let me know what for you resonates the most. And while I wait for those comments to come through, I just want to remind you, I'm going to be on here every day. I'm going to try and be at this same time, which is 2 p.m. Central. I think that would be 10 a.m. Pacific and 3 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. in the UK. So I'm going to try and do that, certainly tomorrow and I think Wednesday as well. Thursday is going to be more tricky because I'm going to be in transit, so it might be at a different time. And Friday, again, might be a different time. So just waiting for those comments to come through. If you want to just write, even just write 1, 2, or 3, or give me another thought or a question or a reflection on what I've been talking about today. Does it resonate? Does it feel relevant to you? Because in a way, what I really like to do is create material and talk to things that are, that are resonating with people, that are relevant and that feel important to people. So it's really good to have that feedback. And and the other thing I wanted to say was that some of you may have missed right at the beginning of the live today, but Professor Teddy Love did make a brief appearance right at the very beginning. So if you watch the replay, you can catch him there in his beautiful voice, singing a few ditties for you. Professor Teddy Love is a clown himself, so he's a good example of what I'm talking about. Excellent, Caitlin, thank you. The concept of standing in your own shit, I like that too. Clara, hi Clara, how's it going in Ecuador? How are things? Good to have you along. Speaking my truth, and Sean says mainly number one. Yeah, I mean, I think they're all really, really hard, right? None of those are easy things. How do we acknowledge the truth of who we are when it's not always so pretty? So going back to what I was saying, a little bit later on in the week, Professor Teddy Love might be making a return appearance. So if you'd like to see him again, then make sure you tune in every day for a little bit more of Clown Hacks. Tomorrow we'll be moving on to a completely different episode. But what I'd like to leave you with is this challenge for tomorrow. Okay? I want you to try doing one of these 3 things and tell me about it tomorrow. So tell me what it was like. What happened? Did you explore your own shit? Did you explore, maybe not literally, but your flaws, the things that you don't like about yourself? Did you come up with one that felt like it was both universal and also individual, as I talked about earlier? Or you could challenge yourself about listening to your inner voice, and maybe that involves a little bit of meditation. Take yourself into a quiet spot, close your eyes for just 5 minutes, 10 minutes. What does that voice tell you? What are you hearing? Thanks, Debbie. There's vulnerability in accepting your own truth. Absolutely, yeah. And then, just to yourself, right? Just admitting it to yourself. And then the next step is admitting that to the world. And I want to say as well, because I know that Debbie is a dancer, and there's lots of you out there listening, I'm sure, who are artists of different kinds, not just clowns. And I think a lot of this really is true for different art forms. We're not just talking about clowning here. Perhaps from my point of view, it is especially powerful for clowns because we are talking about our own flaws and training to be able to express those flaws. So it feels especially relevant. So to come back to the homework, are you going to stand in your own shed? Are you going to listen to your inner voice? Or perhaps you're going to speak out. Write a Facebook post, speak your truth, tell somebody something that you wanted to tell them for a long time and you haven't been able to. Find a way to speak your truth, even if it's just to yourself. And I'd love you to join me again tomorrow, same time, same place. Actually, it's going to be a different place, but same time. And I'll be giving you the second clown hack. And I want you to tell me about what's happened in your challenge overnight. So you can either write that in the comments below this, or you can just come along tomorrow and tell me how it went. Brian. Let's finish with an amazing quote from Brian, who's just one of the best people in the whole entire world. Truth is purifying, a drop of nectar on the tongue. I don't think I can really better that. It's a drop of nectar on the tongue. So eat your heart out, bees. Have some truth. Eat it up. Enjoy the sweetness. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.